Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Reformed Dissenters, the show where Reformed Christians dissent against popular ideas of culture by asserting a biblical world view. My name is Bruce Johnson. I am joined today by my brother Jacob Johnson.
Hello.
We are also joined by a very special guest today, comedian John Branyan.
Hey, it's great to be here.
We're super excited to have you back. We chatted with you, 3 or 4 weeks ago back in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Fight Left Feast conference, and that was just a hilarious 15 minutes.
Super fun conversation for sure.
We had a ball, didn't we?
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And then we were on his podcast, which that was an even better conversation. So
yes, because he was in charge, and it was just infinitely better.
We have a storied history of interesting conversations, the three of us.
We do.
Yes.
The saga continues on to part 3. Here we go. Yeah. So today we are kind of continuing our series in building a Christian culture, and we are very excited to continue that series. So we're going to be talking more about that in a minute. But first, don't forget, you can get in touch with us. It's not a one-sided conversation after all. We want to hear from you as our audience. Send us an email at trdshow@protonmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts and comments on our content and new ideas that you have. What are some things you'd like to tell us? Send us an email at trdshow@protonmail.com. Also, check out our show website, which is trdshow.net. It's in the description of wherever you are listening or watching us. And you definitely, if you haven't checked out our show website, you are missing out on a lot of things. We have a lot of features there. We have a list of platforms that we're on. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us on places that hate free speech or places that like the First Amendment. So follow us on all sorts of things. Don't forget to like this video because that really helps us as well. Our newsletter you can sign up for is at trdshow.net/newsletter, and you definitely do not want to miss that. Our mom does a wonderful job putting together content for that 3 times a week, and she just puts some great stuff in there. So do not forget to sign up for that newsletter. And if you're ever in the unfortunate situation of forgetting to watch 1 or 2 of our episodes, that is just a great way to remedy that very highly unfortunate situation. So all of that is there. And today we are building, as I said earlier, this is our second episode in our hopefully very long series of episodes over the next couple of months and hopefully years, building a Christian culture. And so obviously we have a Christian comedian on the show today, which is very exciting, and we're going to be breaking all that down. But before we get into all that, we have to do what we always do, which is talk about our verse of the week. And our verse this week is Proverbs chapter 24, verses 5 through 6. And it says, "A wise man is full of strength, and a man of knowledge enhances his might. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory." And we've been talking about this verse all week, so we'll keep it short but sweet. There's so much to talk about when you're talking about wisdom and the kinds of company that you keep. And a lot of times we see keeping wise counsel keeps you on the right path. Keeping wise counsel will keep you from running into darkness. Keeping wise counsel will keep you upright and in a good relationship with God. But this verse takes us a little bit further than that. And what we see is keeping wise counsel not only keeps you on the straight and narrow, but keeping wise counsel can help you wage war. Keeping wise counsel, having an abundance of wise counselors, will give you victory. So it goes so much further than just you being right with God, but not taking part in the culture war, not actually building a Christian culture, not working for the kingdom of God, and certainly not having success. Now, if you have wise counsel, we're told here in Proverbs that you will have victory and you will successfully be able to fight the battle, fight the war that we're called to fight. And we'll have the strength to do that, and we'll have the might required to do that. So, again, if you missed our previous episodes, Monday and Wednesday episodes this week, definitely go back and check those out. Jake and I went into a lot more detail into this verse in those episodes. So go back and check those out if you missed them. All right, let's get into this content today. I am so excited. It's always fun chatting with John Branyan. Hilarious conversations. As always, if you missed our interview with him a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, what was it, Halloween candy, and just a ton of awesome stuff. So I'm super excited. So I'm going to pass it off to Jake, and he's going to kind of lead us in our conversation today. Take it away.
Yeah, and so real quick, again, going that route of talking about Halloween, I had wanted to take this episode to talk about biblical Halloween and what that looks like. But being it's a couple weeks after Halloween, it seemed a little bit less of a top of mind conversation to have. So I have a different direction to go in. But real quick, I wanted to get your thoughts on Halloween, and should we work to redeem Halloween as a holiday, or should it be completely overhauled? What are your thoughts on that?
On Halloween, I'm not a person who thinks that Halloween is intrinsically an evil holiday any more so than any other holiday that people celebrate. Groundhog's Day, for example, there's a lot of chicanery that takes place on Groundhog's Day that nobody seems to. There's all sorts of animal mistreatment, and there's witchcraft and voodoo, and that we think that the animal's going to somehow prognosticate the future based on looking at its shadow, and all of these things are occultic if we take them to the extreme. And so, personally, I don't think that Halloween necessarily needs to be redeemed, because as a Christian person, I grew up and we, I guess, celebrated Halloween in that we handed out candy for trick-or-treaters and we went trick-or-treating ourselves. And there was never any sort of there was never any sort of witchcraft or demonic Satan worshiping sort of things that we did. It was
you didn't put your candy in a pentagram bowl? Like, what's...
Well, some of our neighbors did, but there was always I don't know. I don't think that personally that we need to get in an uproar about Halloween. And if there are people who have their a conscience that bothers them when it comes to Halloween, then you shouldn't celebrate it. The scripture says that if it's a matter of conscience, if your conscience is bothering you on something, then you need to pay attention to that and not let some comedian talk you into something that bothers your conscience.
Well, John Branyan said,
yeah. I mean, who cares? Who cares what I think? If the Spirit is guiding you to participate in some manner, or to not participate in some manner, then you should follow the Spirit. That's my 2 cents on Halloween.
That's cool. Yeah, and I had hoped to take this entire episode talking about that very topic, but being that it's no longer Halloween, I think... No. I would like to go the route of talking about this type of Christian comedian culture. And real quick, I want to ask, how would you define Christian comedy?
I don't think...
Start you out with the easy question.
Yeah. I don't think there is such a thing, to be precise about it.
He's the contrarian here.
Yeah, well, I understand the question, and this is a thing that I have been talking about since I started doing comedy, and I've sort of evolved in my thinking as I went along. It's a convenient term. If you say Christian comedian, that communicates to the people in the church, your fellow believers, that you are yourself a believer. So that's what the term means. When you say Christian comedian, you're telling people, I am a comedian who has some Christian orthodoxy as a worldview. And so it's shorthand. And so I don't get upset when people say Christian comedian or Christian comedy. But Christian is not really a good describer anymore, because the term doesn't mean anything. You have to, if I say, and the conversation that we're having right now sort of bears that out. It's like, what does it mean to be a Christian comedian? Well, you have to ask me, what does it mean to be a Christian? What is Christian comedy? And so we have to define the term. We have to define the term to have a conversation. And then the next comedian that you have a conversation with, you're going to have that person define the term as well, so that you understand what it is that you're talking about. And so it's helpful in one sense, in that it sort of generally lets people know that my comedy is going to have a Christian perspective on it. But it's not helpful really for much else, because we have to know what it means. What do you mean when you say Christian comedy? In the same way with music, what do you mean by Christian music? Well, what is Christian music? Well, every person that you ask that question is going to have a slightly different way of defining it. Generally, it means that the person performing the music has some Christian beliefs. But as far as what specific orthodoxies, what sort of specific heresies they hold on to, you have to flesh all of that out with each individual person.
Yeah. So, I mean, an offshoot question, I guess, that I would have on that same topic is, what do you believe the goal of comedy is? So I think the goal of what you're doing will kind of change how you do the thing, right? If we believe our goal on earth is to make disciples of all nations, and that is going to succeed, we're going to succeed at that task, then we're going to work hard no matter what to see that through. And the way that we work is going to look differently. So what is the goal of comedy? And maybe that will help answer, maybe inadvertently, a little bit more clearly, what is this Christian comedy, right?
Right. Well, the goal of comedy is the superficial and obvious goal is to make people laugh. It's to be humorous and to create levity. That's probably the primary principal goal. But the secondary goal, and I think the two are, it's hard to know which one comes first, is to speak truth. Comedy doesn't work unless it's true. And so the goal that's equally important, if you're going to achieve the goal of making people laugh, you cannot do that unless you're saying something true. Now, it can be exaggerated. It can be in the form of satire, which is actually speaking the opposite of what is true. But people understand that it's satire. Everything about comedy has to be speaking some sort of truth. It's exposing some reality in the universe. So that's the goal.
Nice. It's almost as if it's another way of doing like a speech. Like you're giving a speech, but you're doing it in a funny way and giving people this funny nature to it, joyful nature to it. But another question that I have is, if a Christian was to go into the comedian field, how might he want to differ himself from a secularist going into comedy? How might that Christian want to be acting? How might that Christian want to think? How might that Christian want to understand comedy? And not just the basic of understanding of not using vile language, something more than that. How might they understand it?
Well, actually, this is a great time for Christians to go into comedy, because the culture is terrified of speaking truth now.
Oh, yeah.
The culture is absolutely scared out of their minds. And that is including the comedians, who historically their job has been to question everything, to mock everything.
Nothing's off limits. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If somebody says the sky is blue, the comedian's job is to come along and go, actually, and talk about why what you just said is incorrect, or why there's another perspective.
Yeah.
But now, now everybody is afraid to do that, because any sort of dissension, as you guys are aware, any sort of dissension is viewed as hate. It's viewed as intolerance. Yep. Is viewed as bigotry, and it is shut down. It is canceled, not by the majority, right? But just by a very few loud doers of evil. And so a Christian going into the comedy field now, all you have to do to be something of a sensation is just stand on a principle. Just pick one. Just pick a principle, stand on that, and say, "This I believe is true," and you will be attacked. You will find them with pitchforks and torches at your door.
Wow!
Because you had the audacity to plant a flag and to put your feet down and say, "This is where I stand, and I'm not going to budge from this."
So, what is the flag that you planted? What's the principle you're standing on?
Oh, there are several. The primary one is that that God determines all of reality. And
no way. What?
Yeah, it's completely. There are rules. That God has determined that there are rules, and we are supposed to live a certain way, and certain ways of living are right. And here's the one that gets you in trouble: certain ways of living are wrong. Like it is incorrect to assume, for example, or to claim that you are now a woman. You were born a male, but now you have transitioned into a female. So
you just went there. We just got this video taken down by YouTube, so thanks for that. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That'll be video number 4. So thanks for the.
No such thing as bad PR.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Say hello to Gab TV.
Yeah.
So that's it. There are so many. Just being a New Testament believer, just believing that the Bible is God's word, believing that it's better to be married. It's better to have loyalties than to be an individual. It's better to be in a community, which is kind of what you guys are talking about. It's better to be in a community than it is to be, a rugged individual. It's better to follow the rules of the group rather than to make my own rules. All of those things are extremely offensive to say, but that's what I think.
And really, like when you stand on your flag and you stand on your position, and people start insulting you, do you think that it's a help for people to insult you, for you to then use those insults as another content for oh, look at this is funny that this person said, and and just using their insults as another funny thing and laughing at their insults?
Yeah, well, if you lean into the insults, and if you acknowledge the insults, particularly the ones that are true, sometimes somebody will come up with an insult that's genuinely funny. And if you acknowledge that and lean into it, it absolutely disintegrates them, because they have no sense of humor themselves. And so if I do have a sense of humor, and so I recognize when things are funny, even if they're at my expense.
You do, really? Wow.
Yeah, even if they're at my expense. And that's the key. Yeah. So if you take a great shot, I'm going to go, good for you. That was a great shot. But the people who don't have a sense of humor can't do that. And so, if you are taking heat for what you believe, odds are not very often are they going to be funny. Most of the time they are just hostile. And there's a reason why hell is a place where there's gnashing teeth. And that's because there's no joy there. And so people start gnashing their teeth before they actually arrive. in hell. But every once in a while, if they're having a good time and you lean into it and enjoy it with them, it completely disarms them.
Yeah.
You cannot heckle a person who refuses to take themselves seriously. You can't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and a huge part of that too is humility and understanding the God that we serve, and understanding that, well, ultimately, you can say whatever you want to me, but that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And that's something that's so rare to find today too, is that humility to take that and say, I really don't care what you say about me. Like, it doesn't change the fact that these things are true. Because the God that I worship and the King that I serve has all authority in heaven and on earth. So beat
Right.
that.
Right. Well, when you do care, and this is what social media is all about. This is where the culture has been going since before you guys were born, actually. That there has been a desire in Western culture, certainly in the United States, to be famous. And when social media came along and gave everybody a platform, and now we started to see influencers. It used to be that there were celebrities, that these were movie stars, and everybody wanted to be a movie star. Everybody looked at movie star, but of course you couldn't, because there was just a very few little platforms out there. You had to go to Hollywood and you had to get a break, and somebody had to help you become a star. You couldn't do it by yourself, and there wasn't room for everybody. Everybody couldn't be a star. Well, then television kind of came out, or radio was first, and then television came out. And so the media gave platforms to a very few people. But then the social media came along, the internet came along, and now everybody, literally everybody, can have a Facebook page or a Twitter or a YouTube channel or all of the above. Everybody can have all of these platforms. And
unless you dissent, then they take down your YouTube channel. But
well,
yeah,
to a degree, you do. There's still gatekeepers.
Right.
There's still gatekeepers.
Yeah.
But the illusion is that, hey, if you set up a YouTube channel and you start producing content, then you'll also have 1 million followers. We can all have 1 million followers. we can all have 10 million. We can all be Lady Gaga, and we can have tens of millions of people following us, and that's the illusion. So that's where everybody wants to be. There are people now, your age and a little older, who honestly think that they should be able to make a living just playing video games all day long and talking about it. And why do they think that? Because there's people who make a living playing video games and talking about it.
Yeah.
And so we have become an entire nation of people who are not interested in developing a community, who are not interested in spending time with our families. We're not interested in volunteering to do something civic or at church. We don't want to do that. Why? Well, because there's not a platform. No one's going to see us. No one's going to acknowledge us. If I go and volunteer at church to help, mow the yard, or to volunteer to help teach a vacation Bible school class, whatever it is I'm doing, there's no platform there.
That's a really good point.
That's not gonna get any attention.
Yep.
And everybody wants attention. Everybody thinks that they deserve attention. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because this person has it. This person has it, and I'm just as good and just as important, just as talented. They're no better than I am. So I should have what everybody else has. And that's where it's led to a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety and a lot of unhappiness, because the truth is there's still only room for very few people. We don't need 100 million YouTube influencers. We don't need that many influencers.
Yeah.
And so there it is. The truth is, most of us are not going to be household names, but we've got social media and we've got influencers who are telling us, oh yeah, you can do what I do. You can have tens of millions of people. You just got to buy my book and follow my steps and get an email list and tweet funny things and take great pictures, and it'll all happen for you. and it won't.
And a huge issue with that is, what is their, again, going back to what is their end goal? Like, I know in the Christian community, we've been having a lot of discussions lately, and Cross Politic, they've mentioned this a lot, is we need more Christian, not influencers, but Christian people producing content on a variety of topics, because our goal in the end is not to influence in that way and to make ourselves more famous and to garner more support for ourselves and our own ideas, but the principles behind what we do as Christians is to glorify God. So the focus
Right.
is different, and it changes the way that we do things, the way that we market, the way that we produce our content. We focus people less on us and more on the content itself, which should be centered around the Word of God, which is the goal of the content. So yeah, like
Sure.
with our show, we're always trying to push people, hey, buy these books for yourself, study this for yourself, do your own research. We list all the links to everything we talk about in our descriptions, so check it out yourself. Don't just take our word for it. So it's less. Go ahead.
When we first started the show, we kind of, like, Bruce and I and the other person who was on our show, Joe, we all kind of sat down and talked to each other about, so these are a few questions that people would probably ask us, and one of them is, why should we listen to you over anybody else? And we kind of came to the conclusion that you shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
We are here to show you what to do yourself. We're here to say, hey, go do your own research. And by the way, here's something maybe you should look at specifically. Here's something that's going on in our culture. Yeah. And
or
so
here's a comedian you should look into,
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely that.
Yeah.
Definitely that.
Yeah.
Well,
But
if you have a platform, and let's just talk frankly for a minute here. Suppose you guys do this podcast, and you work your little selves into a frothy frenzy every single week, and you put out content, and it's good content, and you edit video, and you edit all the audio, and you get everything, and it's a lot of work. I do a podcast, and I do a weekly streaming thing, so I know it's a lot of work. What if after the end of a year, you have a regular download count of 10 for each of your episodes? You get 10 downloads on your episode. Yeah. That's going to have an impact on the way you think about this. You're gonna start to ask some questions. Yeah. Am I doing the best thing that I can do with my time?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have that voice that says, well, what if there's just one person that's being positively affected and it's making a real difference in their life? What if there's just one person? Is that enough people to continue to do the thing? And I would say that attitude is what all of us should have in our ministry. We're all in some sort of a ministry. Every Christian is a minister in some capacity. And so if, rather than thinking like influencers, if we think like people who are part of a smaller community, and we just acknowledge and expect that our community is going to be smaller. In other words, our platform is going to be smaller. If we go into it knowing, you know what, if I have direct influence and I have a meaningful influence with just 10 people, but it's meaningful, they're actually being affected and they're affecting me, and we're generating a sort of a forward momentum, whatever it is, we're speaking the truth and it's all going to the glory of God. Is that going to be satisfactory to me? And if it's not, I would submit that I need to spend some time in prayer, and I need to spend some time asking the giver of all good things to humble me a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Because the idea that I deserve more people listening to me is a very dangerous thing for me to think.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I've thought it. I've thought, why isn't my
Yep.
platform as big as John Chris? Why isn't my platform as big as Tim Hawkins? Don't I deserve that many people? And when I put it like that, when I started thinking about it like that, I went, I need to be
Yeah.
more grateful and more thankful
Yeah.
for the people that do appreciate what I'm doing. And I need to spend less time coveting what other people have.
Yeah.
And more time just pouring into the tribe, the community,
Yep.
however big it is that I have.
Yeah. Well, this has been phenomenal, and we really, really appreciate your time coming on the show to chat with us. Unfortunately, that's the half-hour mark. I can't believe it went so quickly.
Yeah.
But
It always does. That's because I don't know how to shut up.
us either. So you're in good
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and looking forward to having you on the show again sometime in the future. Where can people go if they wanted to, just get some good laughs from John Branyan?
TimHawkins.net. It's a great place to get laughs. You can go to John Chris' website too. That dude's funny.
Okay. Well, those are options, I suppose.
Yep.
Not exactly what I was fishing for, but
My
because
website's johnbranyan.com. Johnbranyan.com. You can come and find me. Send me a note.
Sweet. That would be awesome.
And you also do a podcast, right?
I do. The Comedian Next Door is on iTunes and all those places. It's also on the FLF network. The fresh episode is on the Fight Laugh Feast network, and you can download that one. The ones on the other platforms are a few weeks behind.
Love it.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, John, for joining us. And thank you all, as our audience, for joining us, watching us, or listening to us today. Don't forget, go to trdshow.net. That's our show website. Go to John Branyan's website, johnbranyan.com, and that's all A's, no O's. No O's. And send us an email at trdshow@protonmail.com. We would really love to hear your thoughts on what we've been talking about today. And remember, everyone, in all that you do, do it as unto the Lord.